Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whoever's out there in listening land. Welcome to the Common Sense with Conn radio call-in talk show. If you have anything that you'd like to contribute to the show, I need all the help I can get trying to figure things out. So the phone number here is 254 773 1400. That's 773 1400. Y'all feel free to call in and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Because if you don't call in, we're probably going to talk a little bit about politics and current events. I kind of feel like we need to have conversations about current events and what's happening in our world. I'm not really pleased with everything I see happening in our world. There's not a whole lot I can do about it, but I can talk about it and I can warn other people. I take my position here kind of seriously. I recall the scripture in the Bible talking about the watchman on the wall, and I really do believe that we have a responsibility if we see things going in the wrong direction to say something. If you don't agree with the political stand of a politician or your next door neighbor, whoever it is, say something. I think that we need to be talking about something besides NFL football. As you can tell, I'm not a real great big football fan, but it seems that most of our population here in the United States all of a sudden have a one-track mind, and it's on football. Well, and I'm not opposed to football, don't misunderstand me, but I'm just saying, how does the score in that football game that you have talked about for a week, how does that score in that football game affect your life for the rest of your life? If you are 20 years old and your life expectancy in this country is 80 years old, then you've got 60 years left to live under what's happening in the U.S. Congress or in the Texas legislature this coming year. As opposed to how will that score in that football game affect your life for the next 60 years. It's not going to affect my life because I don't care what the score is. I've got other things to think about. I got to think about cows and calves and trucks and equipment and all kinds of things besides football. But I know people that all they think about is football. So anyway, if you have something you want to talk about, well, give us a call. Now, we got a call here from Raymond. We're going to see what Raymond wants to talk about today. Yeah, Raymond, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good day to you, Mr. Conn. I was just going to ask you this question, concerning politics, because whoever you vote for, they have a lot to do with how the country's going to be run for the 4 years period of time that they're in office. Okay, for an example, when you had Obama and Clinton running, well, either one of them people, how do you make a decision when you don't have no choice and that's all that you have in front of you?
Well,
and it's just kind of hard to make a decision when either party is not worth even voting for. And another thing I was going to ask before I get off the air, as far as I'm concerned, I don't have no college degree or anything like this, but I have enough common sense to realize that the person that I'm looking at is not good for the country. But how do they get elected anyway? How do they BS the whole United States to vote for that person and get in the office? I don't understand that. But you have yourself a good day, sir, and God bless you.
Well,
Merry Christmas to you and your family, sir, and I really mean that. Thank you, sir.
I know you do, Raymond. And thank you for the call because you've given us something to think about. Now, in answer to your question, I would say the way to know how to vote for a person is you mentioned that you're not a PhD holding graduate, but you do have some common sense. I guess I would say apply that common sense you've got to what you're hearing the politician say or what you see him do. A good example that comes to mind, and I say it so much I guess I'm wearing it out, but one of the first things that Barack Obama said was, before he was elected, he said, I want to fundamentally change America. If you have any degree of common sense or logic about you, you know what fundamental change means. If I said I wanted to fundamentally change this building, it means I want to tear it down to the foundation and start over. Now, that's what Barack Obama said, and people went out and voted for him. Did the people that vote for him, did they not have the mental ability to consider what the man had just said? Did they not have the common sense or the logic to consider what he just said? I don't know, but I'm just saying, in answer to your question, listen to what a politician says and then apply some common sense to it. If he's promising to do something that is not possible to do, then why would you vote for him? If he is, referring to things that are not true, someone said, well, so and so could possibly be disingenuous. Well, I have another way of describing that. He could be a lying dog, and I don't intend to vote for someone who can't tell the truth. Now, there's a lot of people that don't like Donald Trump, and there are some things about Donald Trump that I don't agree with. But like I've said before, I am not willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If there is 5% of what he says that I don't like, or 10% that I don't like, I am not willing to sacrifice the 90% that I do like because of him saying something that I didn't like. So I'm just saying, in answer to your question, Raymond, just apply some common sense to your vote. What's he telling you that he's going to do in office? Is it possible for him to do it? And just think about what the man is saying, whoever it might be. Anyway, another thing, I'm always picking on Barack Obama, but he's easy for me to pick on. For example, I called a called-in talk show when he first became president, and I made the comment, I think, and it's just my opinion, but I said I think that he is a communist and a Muslim. And the fellow on the other end of the line said, Conn, that's impossible. Well, okay, let's look back at his actions when he was in office. Who did he help? One of the first people he helped was Cuba, a communist country with a communist dictator. What was one of the second things he did? Well, let me see, he gave $165 billion with a B to Iran, which helped them build nuclear weapons and missiles that they can deliver those nuclear weapons with. And that's one of the very simply a Muslim nation that is a sponsor of terrorism all around the world. So if that's the people that he is helping as president, then I draw the conclusion that I think he either has leanings toward or is a communist and a Muslim. Muslim, ever how you want to say it. So I think that we ought to consider what people say and then consider what they do. It doesn't matter what they say if they don't do what they say. Let's look at Donald Trump, for example. You may not like some of the things he says, and especially when he puts his foot in his mouth, which he does every now and then. Maybe all of us do. I probably do. But let's look at what he's done. He has reversed or repealed, man, I don't know how many regulations that Barack Obama created. Another thing that Barack Obama did was he created thousands and thousands of new regulations on businesses and on just the American people. He created more debt. He talks about how prosperous things were under his administration. That's a bunch of hogwash. Uh, if I remember right, when he came into office, we had a national debt of $8.5 trillion. When he left office, we had a national debt of $20 trillion. Now, I'm not real good at math, folks, but I think that's a pretty dramatic increase, and I would say it's just a little bit over double. Now, like I say, I'm not too good at math, but I can add two and two and get four, and I think maybe some people can't nowadays. Which brings me to another subject. I'll repeat something I heard Jake McClure say about a month ago on the McClure show. Jake made the statement that the new technology, artificial intelligence, things like that, is destroying skills in America. That was really a profound statement because it sure gave me something to think about. Uh, is that true? And I submit that it is true. We are destroying old skills that have helped make us the greatest nation in the world. For example, how many people today do not rely on their common sense to make a decision, or their logic, or their rational thinking? No, they rely on a computer to tell them what to do and tell them how to think. Uh, I can't even turn a computer on. I'm the first to admit that I am high-tech impaired. Uh, you can put in your left eyeball what I know about computers. But I hope that I have a little bit of common sense, enough that I don't have to have a computer to tell me what to think. They were talking a while ago on the McClure show that now if you Google the word idiot, Donald Trump comes up. Okay, that may not affect everybody, but there is a portion of people out there that go to that computer and they Google idiot, and up jumps Donald Trump. So, how many people does that influence their thinking of Donald Trump? I don't know. I don't know how many people fall for that, but I'm sure that there are some people that do. So, I think that we have to be careful allowing our high-tech world to destroy skills, whether it be using robots for welders as opposed to using people as welders, or whatever the high-tech world may be producing right now. But and sometimes that's really counterproductive. I've got a grandson that went to a little school and learned how to operate a crane. You know, a 100-ton crane or a 200-ton crane or whatever. They use them all around the country, building buildings and all kind of things. He's making so much money to scare you because he has a skill. Now, I guess at some point in our future, they may have robots that can control cranes better than people can. But right now, it takes people, and he's one of them. Right now, a man with a 1-ton truck and a welding machine can go to Midland, Odessa area or anywhere in the oil patch. I just talked to a man recently that had he's a middle-aged, maybe 24, 25-year-old young man. And he did not sound like a PhD holding college graduate. He sounded like just a common old boy. And he had a new Ford pickup, and he had a weld in the back of it. And I said, well, can you make a pretty good living with that rig right there? He said, yeah, I can work all the hours that I want to work. He said, for example, now if I don't mind working long hours, I can go to West Texas and I can make 200,000 a year. Well, that's pretty good wages back where I come from. Uh, but how much of that type of skilled labor is disappearing? Well, and the reason it is we have this attitude that little Johnny or little Mary or little Lucy or whatever has to go to college. She has to go to college and become an expert at underwater basket weaving or whatever it is she's taking a course in. So, and how many college graduates don't have a job when they get out? Like this young man, if he can make 200,000 a year, starting at age 20, 25, whatever, however how old he is, uh, as opposed to 4-year college degree, and at the end of the degree, let me see, he's got a student loan for 60,000, for example. Okay, if he didn't make 200,000 a year, or let's say he didn't make 20,000 a year, then in a 4-year period of time, he lost $80,000. So he lost 80,000, and he accumulated 60,000 in debt. Okay, I think that's like about $140,000 in the hole. So I'm not downplaying college education. I think that we all need to gain all the education we can gain and all the skills that we can gain. But I'm just saying, do we possibly put too much emphasis on the high tech world we're living in and that kind of thing? It looks to me like we're going to have to go to break here and try to pay a few bills. So y'all hang in there, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, there's some more of that old boot scooting music right there from Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. That is genuine Texas music, folks. Bob is telling them how to do it. But in the meantime, we got Colonel Jack that's going to tell us how to do it. So, are you still there?
I'm hanging on here.
Well, just go ahead on. Tell us how to get all this mess straightened out for me.
Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. You and I are on the same team. We think very much alike.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know whether to. That's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, I tell you what, I have a doctorate from the UT, but I still think I have a little common sense enough to know when Barack Obama said he's going to fundamentally change the country, he's not somebody I wanted to vote for. But there's something else you were talking about.
Let me interrupt just 1 second.
Okay.
Sometimes I criticize college degrees or college people or college professors, but some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life had a college degree coupled with common sense. So, don't ever misunderstand what I'm saying about college degrees and the college life, but I'm just saying that those college people who have spent a lifetime in the classroom, they don't have a lot of common sense.
Some of them don't. I spent 7 years. I went straight from kindergarten through my doctorate in jurisprudence at UT Law School. And I'm an old man. I'm 83 years old. And there's something I don't understand, Conn. It's a little bit off the subject, but it's sort of it. How come the kids today are charged such fantastic tuitions? When I graduated from UT, do you know how much it cost? It was $25 a semester. Not a semester hour, but a semester. So you could graduate, you could register, buy your books, and have change coming from a $100 bill. I got out in 1961, and I owed $555. And if I'd had to pay $60,000 or $100,000, I never could have made it. So
Well,
I don't understand. If we had just kept up with inflation, we might owe 10 times as much. But why is it that we have allowed the tuitions to get so fantastically high?
well, and what are the unintended consequences of that?
That's what I'm curious about. If you could cast any light on it, I'd appreciate it.
Well, you have people now who go to the university and they they spend a lifetime in the classroom. Well, when they have graduated from all the courses they took, they have been in class for so many years. Maybe they're kind of afraid to go out in the big world and gain common sense or whatever it may be. But at any rate, so what they do is they go back to work as a professor in the university. Well, we're now paying professors $100,000, $200,000 a year to be there in the classroom and to teach students how to live life when they themselves have never lived very much of life except in the classroom. So we have to charge students more money in order to justify paying the professor $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year, whatever it is. So, are these unintended consequences of what we're doing in the university?
I don't know. What bothers me is these kids that come out and owing so much money, what it would cost to buy a house. What effect is this having on our society?
Well,
I don't know. They're not all going to go back and be college professors, obviously.
No, and some of them are really brilliant, good people that's going to contribute to the society we live in. But an awful lot of them are not. So, and I don't know how to balance somewhere between skills, common sense, logic, etc., and college degrees. I guess what I would say is the people that I have worked with that had been to college and were very, very smart, they went to college after they had done something out in the big world. The same thing is true of police officers. The best police officers I ever knew were ones who graduated high school, went to work somewhere, and worked out in the industry for a period of time. And by doing so, they gained a little bit of empathy for the people that they're policing. So I think the people I have known in law enforcement are with a degree from the college. They have had some worldly experience before college, or during college, or before law enforcement. But I'm just real big, Colonel, on experience. I'm real big on getting on the horse called life. And when the
I
horse,
agree with that. I never had a chance to. I worked my way through school. I married just before I got into law school, and my wife helped me, but we worked our way through, so I knew pretty much what it took to live life. By the time I got out, I wasn't. I didn't realize it when I left home, but I was out of the nest.
well, that old horse called life throwed you a few times, and you had to get back on.
That's exactly right. And anyway, it's a pleasure visiting with you, and I hope you'll let me call you again sometime.
Well, just don't lose the phone number. You are welcome to call any time because
254-773-1400, right?
Yes, sir, that is it. And you feel free to call back anytime.
Let me ask you something else before we say goodbye.
Yes, sir.
Are you planning to go to that get-together that they're going to have in Fredericksburg?
Yes, sir, the Logic Summit. I will be there. They had it 2 or 3 years in a row, and I went every time, and I really did enjoy it because I was with people like yourself.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would love to go. As I mentioned, I'm a lawyer and also an ordained Baptist minister. It sounds like an oxymoron. But I drove into the wall of the courthouse in Pflugerville and broke my neck a few years ago, and I'm kind of crippled. So I'm going to try to go.
Well, I bet we'd love to have you. And I'll just bet that you would contribute to conversations down there.
Well, I've been a conservative. I stayed a liberal. What was it Churchill said, that if a man if he's not a liberal when he's 20, he has a hard heart, but if he has one by the time he's 30, he's got a soft head.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it took me about 20 minutes, not 20 years to become a conservative.
I talk so much, Jack, about common sense and common experience and worldly experience. And you hear me quite often say, they don't live in the same world that I live in.
Right.
And it's very, very true, because someone involved in the university all their life, they've never seen things that I've seen and that you've seen, and they've never experienced the things that we've experienced. And I would submit to anybody that common sense is a product of experience.
Well, I agree with that.
But anyway, Jack, I sure do appreciate your call, and whatever you do, don't lose the phone number.
Well, I won't. I tried to call you some time ago, and I never got an answer, and I don't know whether I was dialing the wrong number or what, but I couldn't hold on long enough.
Oh, okay.
I quit calling in to Lynn when he moved to West Texas because he had I just didn't have time to hold for 30 minutes or so.
Right.
I've enjoyed when you have called in, and look forward to maybe getting to meet you in Fredericksburg.
Well, we'll look forward to that, because I plan on being there, and I hope you show up.
Well, I'm gonna try. I was a widower for a while, and my new wife is a conservative too. So we're gonna try to go.
Well, maybe she can help guide you in the right direction.
Or vice versa, I can guide her.
Folks like us need a lot of guidance, I
Right.
think.
Well, goodbye, my friend, and God bless you.
Well, same to you, and you call back in. Okay, here we are back on the Common Sense with Conn show, folks. And if you would like to call in, the phone number here is 773-1400. Now that's 254-773-1400. Now, another phone number you need to write down is if you know someone that would sponsor this talk show with their business or just personal help. The phone number to call is 300-1885. That's 300-1885. And that will get you hooked up with my dear wife, and she'll take your information and we'll get back to you. So if you would like to sponsor this show and keep it on the air, and I might say that we are going to need some sponsors here real quick because we've paid for it up until the first Saturday in January, and then after that, we may just go quietly into the night. I don't know. I enjoy doing the show, and I'm not very good at begging, and I'm not begging now, but I'm just saying if you like this show and you want to keep it on the air, we need to find some more sponsors. So having said that, we'll get back to some of the subjects that we ought to be talking about. And let me say, I really do enjoy a conversation with someone like Colonel Jack that just called in because, he brings different experiences, different kinds of knowledge to the conversation. And I really enjoy a good conversation with good people. I enjoy a little bit of religion in the conversation. I do not enjoy a pure religious conversation, but I do enjoy good conversation with good common sense people. I do not enjoy a conversation where every other word is the F word or something like that. If you want to talk like that, then go down to the beer joint and talk all you want to, but don't call on this show. Okay, having said that, several things in the news that we might want to think about. I was talking about what Jake McClure said about skills being destroyed by the high-tech world we're living in. And I think that's a very fair statement, and I think it's very, very true. But anyway, that's just one other thing to think about or talk about. Another thing I want to bring up, the McClures were talking earlier today about life insurance and a savings account and money to have in hard times. Recently, they did a poll of, I think, 1,000 people, and the question was, can you come with $400 today? Can you come with $400 in the next 24 hours? Unless I'm mistaken, 70% of the respondents said they could not do that. So I guess my thinking there is if all of your money is in a 401k in New York City, if you need $400 today, where are you going to get it? My experience has been that there are several things that I can do 6 days a week that will produce money. I can sell a cow. I can sell scrap metal. I can pawn a gun at the pawn shop. That's three things that come to mind real quick. But I'm just saying that most people, well, in that poll, 70% of the people do not have any way to get $400 cash in the next day. And I think it's something that everyone needs to think about. What have you accumulated in your life that would allow you to produce $400 in one day? And there's a lot of people that can't produce $40 in one day. Now, I have been in several situations in my lifetime where I couldn't pay the electricity bill or some other bill or whatever it was. I needed $100 or $200 or $500. Well, several times I have been in that situation but I had something out there that I could gather up and go sell for scrap metal and get $500. That has happened to me, and I'm just saying that there is benefit to, and we can't all have a cow that you can go sell, but there are other things that you can sell or pawn or do something with 6 days a week. If you've got a good 30-30 Winchester, you can pawn it for some amount of money 6 days a week at a pawn shop. So if you need $100, you can probably get $100 that day by pawning that 30-30 Winchester. Well, there are other things that you can do like that, and I'm just saying I would encourage people to give some thought to what you can do to avoid a situation where you just couldn't come with enough money to put fuel in your gas tank. Uh, okay, I think that we're going to go to a break, try to pay a bill or two here, so y'all just hang in there and we'll be back in just a minute. Ah, talk to 'em, Bob. Tell 'em how to play that old fiddle. Make them folks get them boots on and get out there in that sawdust and shuffle them boots around in that sawdust floor and do a little bit of dancing to that two-step Texas music. Oh, I like that old Bob Wills music, folks. At any rate, here we are back on the Common Sense with Conn talk show. If y'all want to call in and talk, well, the number here is 254-773-1400. And if you don't call in, then you're going to have to just listen to me. So it might be a lot better for you just call in and let's talk about something. At any rate, I like to talk about current events and things that are happening out here in the big world that we are either proud of or scared of. And right now, I think the number of things I'm scared of outnumbers the things that I'm proud of. But at any rate, we'll talk about it if you want to call in. One thing that I want to bring up there's about a dozen things, but one is I see so many people in Congress and just out here in the big world saying things that makes me wonder, especially in the Democrat Party, is mental illness contagious? I don't know, but I see some things that people say. Here's some things they say, and I wonder, do they have a brain? And if they do, does it work? Maxine Waters, for example, if you listen to what she says, if you listen to Chuck Schumer, listen to what he's saying, and does it make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm not smart enough to keep up. I don't know. But at any rate, it looks to me like mostly the Democrat leadership and Democrats in the House, just for example, they will not one of them will side with Donald Trump. And it doesn't matter how right Donald Trump is. They automatically reject anything he says or does. Without thinking about it, without considering it, they reject it. How much hatred does it take to do that? If I said, I hate what that guy says because he's black. I don't believe anything a black person says. If I said that, would that be racism? Would that be prejudice? Would that be biased? All kind of bad things that I should not think or say about that person. I try real hard not to do that. But look at the Democrat Party. They apply that kind of hatred to Donald Trump because he's Donald Trump. I don't believe they listen and consider what he says or what he's doing. They just hate him. And why that degree of hatred? And how do we overcome that? Because I really believe that if that hatred continues and increases, I think it will lead to civil war, strife, blood in the streets, whatever you want to call it. I believe this road we're traveling is going to have a very, very bitter end. And it really has me concerned. Because see a few of the talk shows late at night, some of the talk shows. Anyway, listen to what some of the moderators say and consider what they say. Listen to the just pure hatred of Donald Trump. They call him a Nazi. They call him Adolf Hitler. They call him all kinds of things. Why? What produces that kind of thinking in those liberal left-wing Democrats or whatever they are? And I'm reluctant to call all of them Democrats. I think we got a comment here from the floor. So if you got a comment there, young lady, just go ahead on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Just a quick, I think that, regardless of your stance on Donald Trump, Trump kind of put himself in that position. You know, he wasn't. Nobody who runs for office knows how to be a president. Nobody knows. It's not something that you're born with. It's not like that. You have to kind of adapt and you learn how to, you know, take that position as a president. And I don't think anyone feels that Donald Trump has done so, just not based off of the actions, more so about the things that he says. And I mean, you even said he sticks his foot in his mouth all the time.
Yes. Foot in the mouth disease.
Exactly. And I think that's the reason why there's so much hatred. And people can't even look past, you know, the things that he says about other people and the way that he conducts himself.
Well,
and they can't look past that to see what he's
you bring
doing.
up a very, very good subject. Why don't they have the ability to look past his foot in the mouth comment and look at what he has done?
I think it's because of the extent of some of the things that he says. You know, I think one of the biggest concerns is like women have come so far for like equality and all that other stuff, just like different races have. And now we have, you know, a current commander in chief who comes off very misogynistic. And once, you know, someone comes off that way, all women are going to say, we don't like this guy. We're not going to listen to him. And I mean, everyone knows what happens when you get, pardon me, a group of angry women together. You know, this is kind of just what happens.
So if the alternative to him is continuing the downward spiral, is that what we want?
No, I'm not saying that the hatred's productive. I don't think that at all.
No,
Yeah,
I know you're not, but I'm
yeah,
just
no,
saying.
absolutely. Do I agree with, you know, the things that he says and some of the actions that he takes? No. But at the same time, I don't think people know how to
How to get past that.
appropriately
Yeah.
express, you know, their disagreements. It's not
Well,
even a disagreement.
To,
It's more
to
of
me, and you bring up a good subject. To me, they can't. My mother used to say, "Oh, John, he can't see past the end of his nose," and that's hard to understand. But I understand what she meant, because there are people that they only see and they only think right here,
right.
and they can't project their thinking beyond that comment that he just made that nobody agrees with.
Exactly.
You know.
And of course, you say one little thing and it's all over the media.
Yeah, and
It's the only thing.
See, it's what I have to say about victims, be they black victims, women victims, brown victims, or green victims. When are you going to shut up and get over it? Mm-hmm. You know, I've been knocked around a little bit, and you know, I've been kicked in the head by four-legged animals and two-legged animals, but I don't dwell on that. I don't go down the rest of my life thinking about that guy that kicked me in the head.
Right.
I got over it. I shut up and got over it. But you're seeing people today that they get hung up on. One caller said, well, I'm black and I've been chased down the street with a stick. I said, okay, get over it. You know, are you going to dwell on that thought for the rest of your life? And I'm not talking about me, but, you know, I have had circumstances that wasn't too pleasant. I shut up and got over it.
Right.
You know, went on with life. But so if Donald Trump says, if he puts his foot in his mouth, we don't agree with it. Are you going to, as I said a while ago, are you going to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Mm-hmm. If he has improved our living conditions in this country for black, brown, white, women, whoever, are we going to throw away that because he put his foot in his mouth?
Right.
So I'm not willing to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that has a lot to do with, you know, this is now a society of, you know, the millennials, where we're being raised on participation medals. So we get, you know, and I say we just because I am a millennial. I'd like to think that I think differently.
Oh, you do.
But we are very, you know, self-entitled, and we're spoiled, and we don't really make a good, you know, name for ourselves, and that's why, you know, we get offended at everything. And
Well,
unfortunately, that's why we are where we are.
And I really, really appreciate your comments, because I'm not a millennial. I'm older than dirt, you know. So my thinking and my experiences are totally different to yours.
Right.
But I like to hear your comments, because you see things different than I do. And one thing that I learned from Professor Treat at A&M University, he made a comment that I have thought about a million times. He was talking about the Civil War. He said, let's put this in perspective. And that's what we don't seem to be able to do today. We don't seem to be able to put it in perspective that Donald Trump said something, he put his foot in his mouth. Okay, did he really mean that? What's the consequences from what he said?
Right.
Now, why don't we listen to what he said, laugh about it, call him an idiot, call him whatever you want to call him, and then get over it. And let's look at the stock market or the unemployment rate or so many things. Let's move on.
Right.
So I do appreciate your comments.
I do appreciate you hearing me out.
Well,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
well, I hope that this show is one that I do not try to hog the airtime. I want to have a good conversation with good people. And I hope that the good conversations ring a bell with somebody and they learn something. As I have learned from Colonel Jack a while ago, or from Rick that calls in, or the many people that call in. And I hope that during the show, somebody, me or someone else, can say something that helps you throughout life. For example, I had a man ask me one time, Dr. A.K. Cutler in Bryan, Texas. He said, Conn, what's the hardest thing in the world to find? I said, gold, diamonds, silver. He said, no. I said, what is it? He said, it's unbiased advice. And that statement has stuck with me for the last 50 years because very often you ask someone their opinion or their advice, and it is very, very biased. So if you take that biased advice and utilize it, you're going to get in trouble. And I think right now I'm going to get in trouble if I don't kind of slow down here a minute because we're be at the end of the thing here. Hang in there and we'll be right back, folks.